Yeah, what gets you? It is.
Yeah. It's that. In case I curse.
I'm cursing aloud.
After Hughes passed away in 1976, expired.
Do you want me to shut off that?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
We want to have a little background noise so it sounds like we're somewhere.
Dave, how long do you anticipate this live stream going?
Oh, I budgeted an hour. I don't think we're going to go an hour.
Holy.
Hey, Dave, can you give us an idea of some of the, what are you
Might
going
be
to
like-
start with? Are you just talking about the falls? What kind of stuff are you going to, so Brandon and you guys are all prepped in
Yeah.
terms of what questions are coming in?
We're going to be talking about just introduce you, your experience. You were here at the museum before. Just kind of a 50,000-foot look at the museum. You know, where are we going forward? As far as the museum, we'll just kind of back up and define what's going on. You know, maybe move to the area. Falls of it, about it, just what's going on now. Any changes, museum operations stays the same. What is Falls of it going to do?
You could do that.
And then what are we looking at in the future? Summer is typically a high tourism visitation. I was talking to one of the guys here, Spruce Goose Bruce, who said up to 1,000 people a day visit this museum. So we're not going to ask any real difficult questions.
Okay, that's good. I do not.
What did he say anyway?
Really different.
Really different. Dave, I guess when we discussed that this was the live one,
Yeah.
I didn't write that down. This is new to Brandon, so that's
Oh, is
my
it?
apologies. I was like,
Surprise.
so Brandon, I thought that he wanted to do live ones later, but surprise. So, my mistake.
Blame it on me.
Brandon's always ready.
I can always just. I can't really comment on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm running a little bit late today. I started early and ended up late, which is interesting. Part of it I had to sell some advertising, which is always a good thing.
Which is very it's the radio waves happening.
Yeah, we love our advertisers.
Do you need a water, Dave?
Please, that would be awesome. Thank you.
So, how big's the staff at KYLC?
Needs to be bigger. Full time, it's just me right now. We have some part-time people. The radio industry is changing right now.
Yeah.
Everything's going online, and so we're kind of tooling up for that and kind of getting everything ready, and then going to push forward.
Yeah, I've noticed that everyone's got streaming apps and webcasts.
That's where the future is. The FCC is going to have what's called a reverse auction. Now, what that essentially means is broadcasters are going to sell part of the spectrum, which is the dial, back to the FCC, and they're going to reallocate it to Wi-Fi, internet, cellular, that kind of thing. So that tells you where the real appetite for spectrum is.
Yeah.
So, not that broadcast is going to go away, but it's definitely probably going to be not as robust as it was.
Yeah.
So everybody is kind of. That's where the trends are. The internet is not as slinky. It's not going to
Yeah.
it's probably going to stay. And
For you?
so we are.
And this one for you.
Thank you. We are tooling up for that.
It's good that we just talked to the volunteers. They saw me and they like, excuse me.
Oh, you're not supposed to have water in here, or is that?
Well, you think about it, there's artifacts, people slipping, there's so many. Water, I guess, isn't an issue. It's your own water. It's soda. It's what I choose.
Sticky stuff.
Thank you.
And yeah, that stuff is nasty on.
Everybody came from town. We came here for dinner. OCP on the floor over there. We are potty training. So free. Yeah. I know. It's like not gonna hurt anything on this floor. Big tubs. She's getting there. She's close.
Dave, Brandon has, did he tell you he has 2 kids and his third on the way in the next couple of weeks?
Really?
March 16th, allegedly.
No,
Allegedly.
After a busy summer, crews began assembling the flying boat's control surfaces. The flaps were assembled September 6th.
First one was opening day on the water park.
No, that's
So
the
Attached to the facility.
fact that it was like this huge thing.
So you launched your baby and launched the water park at the same time. There's a lot of.
He's
That was my first day I had to call out of work.
Exactly. That's how good Brandon is.
That was it. God, when we find out it was...
Do you want to be on the shot too, or you just?
What?
I'm good.
Are you going to answer some questions?
What? If I do answer questions, I'll walk in.
You should just like hand me a...
Yeah.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's what I was just, it's okay that you say do talk.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Now you're gonna cuss all day. That's a really like aggressive museum out there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1.
Yeah. Did you think you could talk to John?
Test,
That's something.
test.
What am I doing? David.
It's live, I can't see it.
Oh. I just like watching this and watching that. It's funny. No, you can't. I can flip things up. Now you can like look up and be like, pretend like, watch yourself.
Test. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Was Saturday excited to see Saturday contestants?
Yeah, they're always...
1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, Brandon, what's your last name?
Robin. R-O-B.
Robin.
Do you need a card?
That's okay.
Oh, I got the wrong.
Ready to go on in 20 seconds?
Joy.
20 seconds.
I should open up. Wait, this is live?
Yeah.
Live on the radio and live on the internet.
Radio and internet?
AM 1260 KOIC, and live we are here at the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum. You know, this is one of my favorite places to come out and visit because it's just really fun out here. We're right behind, we're actually right in front of the Spruce Goose. If you go online to our website, klyc.us, or KLYC Radio on Facebook or KLYC Video on Facebook, you'll see behind, well, right there's Brian. There's a gentleman here that, in fact, he's walking right over there. His name is that Spruce Goose Bruce?
Yes.
Okay. Spruce Goose Bruce tells me that 1,000 people a day come to visit the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum during the summertime, during busy days.
Yeah, it definitely gets busy. Very busy in the summertime.
And inside the Spruce Goose is amazing. If you've never been inside the Spruce Goose, come on out and take a look at it. But we're going to do a show and a video shoot inside the Spruce Goose sometime soon and talk about the history and talk about the controls and so on and so forth. I don't think they're going to let us fly it, but we'll definitely be inside.
Yeah, that's the plan. Flying it would be cool, but yeah, this is a perfect year for it too. It's the 70th anniversary of the flight, the one and only flight that took place on November 2nd. So it's a great time to come out and check out the aircraft. It's actually undergoing a little bit of restoration right now to clean it up for that for this important year. So new curator on board. Really excited about getting that the Spruce Goose spruced up a bit for everyone.
Spruce up the Spruce Goose.
Yes.
Spruce Goose Bruce will spruce up the Spruce Goose.
Exactly.
Okay, folks. Okay, that's your homework. Say that 6 times really fast on the air. Alrighty. So we were talking now to the new executive director. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I actually grew up in Southern California, not an Oregon native. Spent most of my life out there. Actually got into museums through the water park. So I, as a 16-year-old kid, said, hey, I want a summer job. I'm going to go work at this Six Flags water park as a lifeguard. Kept going back every summer, summer after summer, and they kept saying, hey, do you want to do this? Hey, do you want to take on more? And that actually brought me, or took me to Maryland to run a water park out there, a different Six Flags water park, for a few years before moving out to Oregon, where I found this water park, and that's how the museum found me. I was fresh out of the water park industry, so I thought, and they were looking for a guy that had water park experience, and the only place that was building a water park at the time that I happened to move to. So we came out here. They showed me around, and they brought me on to run the place. I did that from 2011 to about 2015.
We're talking about the water park now.
Yes. Yeah. So ran the water park until fall 2015 when the museum decided to move me over for operations of the whole campus as the chief operating officer. So I oversaw the museum side and the water park operations until last November when they said, hey, we want you to be the executive director. We kind of like you. You're a fun guy. Let's make this happen. So that's kind of long story short how I got here.
You're a wild and crazy guy, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, I have to remember we're live here, so we have to behave ourselves there.
Just
all
a
right,
little bit.
because the boss is watching and listening. So let's talk about the future of the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum. You know, we've been on record as supporting the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum. It's a world-class museum here in McMinnville. We mentioned a moment ago that there's Spruce Goose Bruce. Hey, we'll have to get you on the air here in a minute. Oh, raised eyebrows. Okay, I think that is a yes. 1,000 people a day come to this facility in the summertime during the busy times. That's significant for tourism here in Yamhill County. It also honors and tells the story of veterans, which we're very big on here at KLYC. And it's just a great facility with a lot of really cool-looking airplanes. And we hated to see it go away. And I know that there was a dark time in the history where it was, going through the bankruptcy court and so on and so forth, and the future was kind of dark, shall we say. And then the Falls Event Center came up, and here we go. So, for people who just crawled out from under a rock or just moved to town and haven't heard the backstory of this, tell me what's going on. Falls Event Center is an event center that owns facilities across, I guess, the western United States, and they own some of the buildings here. What do they own, and what's their reason for buying this place?
So it's the museum. The most recent event that impacted us was the bankruptcy of the Michael King Smith Foundation. They had owned specific assets on the campus, but even before that, the museum has been kind of dragged into the news from our association with Evergreen International Airlines. They filed for bankruptcy in late 2013. So we took a hit with that. We had Evergreen Vintage, which owned two of the buildings, the building that we currently sit in, the Aviation Museum building, and then the theater building right across the parking lot. So they owned those two, but unfortunately they filed for bankruptcy in July of 2015. A man out of Maine, George Schott, came in, helped the museum out, purchased the assets, entered into a new lease with us so that we can remain in these buildings for the next few decades. Then in 2016, the Michael King Smith Foundation filed for bankruptcy, and they own the other assets on the campus. So they own the water park building, Space Museum building, the chapel, and then the surrounding farmland. So the Falls Event Center came out. A guy by the name of Steve Down came out, found us. He was actually looking for a place to store aircraft because he thought about getting into the aircraft business, starting his own charter jet service. Typed in airplanes and things like that, found the museum in a Google search and said, wait a second, this looks like a cool opportunity. So he came out here, did a little bit of research, contacted the museum, came out and looked at the facility, said, hey, I didn't know all of this was, potentially going to be up for sale. I've got a great business idea. How about I come out here? I've got a number of different event centers in Arizona, California, Utah, and I believe they're looking at expanding. Obviously, they recently expanded here and looking to expand in Illinois and a few other locations. But essentially, they have an events business that they do very well. Said, hey, this is a great venue. You guys have aircraft. You guys do some events. We do lots of events. We can help you with your events business. Bring people to the campus, out to the museum, and make this a destination. So his goal is to, in any of his business ventures, is to help other nonprofits, help a nonprofit. So one of his successful businesses is Even Stevens Sandwich Shop. So essentially the idea behind that is you go buy a sandwich at the sandwich shop, and for every $1 they sell worth of a sandwich, they donate that much in credit to a local nonprofit, local food bank. So it's Even Stevens, dollar for dollar donation to a nonprofit. So he's very much about social capitalism. He thinks that hey, we've got to make money, but let's do it and let's help out the community at the same time. So the more successful we are, the more likely we can help local nonprofits. So he saw a great opportunity in partnering with the museum, saying, hey, I can help secure your future by buying up these assets, allowing you guys to continue operating your museum, and then partner with us on events for the community and our museum visitors. So it's really exciting. That's where we're going with it. The museum is super excited because it really helped us. It was being a tenant in a building that we don't own. It's scary when our landlord files for bankruptcy and we're like, uh-oh, we need a helping hand here. So we were very fortunate that Steve Down and his team came in and were able to partner with the museum and get us moving forward in the right direction.
So it will continue to be a museum, but it will also be an events location for events that are brought into this area. There may be times when the museum will be closed down for events.
Yes, and it's from the guest perspective, it's pretty much the same thing that we've always done. We've adjusted our calendar depending on for instance, SIP, the local food and wine festival, is coming, I believe, the weekend of the 10th of March. So they'll be out. We shut down the Space Museum, clear out some aircraft, and accommodate them in that way, and still allow people to visit the Aviation Museum. We'd be willing to do the same thing for any other group that wanted to do a large event. So if any of your listeners are out there looking for an event place, come talk to us. But the majority of their business takes place after hours. It's weddings, corporate events, retreats, things like that, to where we can accommodate them and still operate the museum.
What about the chapel out there? Now, it's a beautiful place as a chapel, but to hold a medium to a large event, it's kind of a small building. Is there going to be any renovation of that?
So they've already completed most of the renovation. They're now calling it the Lodge. They've removed all the pews that were in there and made it more of a multi-purpose event space. It's a lot easier to hold a chapel service in an open space than it is to hold a non-religious event in a chapel. So they've gone ahead and renovated that, restained the outside, done a lot of work, really spruced it up. Keep saying spruce. Done a great job over there, and they've also one of the assets that they required was the Space Museum building. So they've renovated one of the mezzanine levels up there and added the more in line with their traditional event center, the Falls Event Center at Evergreen. So they've installed hardwood floors. They have a main event hall, separate meeting rooms, conference spaces, a boardroom. They've added TVs and AV equipment for different presentations. Added a bridal suite and a groom's room, pool table to accommodate, again, the non-educational, non-museum mission type events.
Is the name going to change?
The Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum name will not change. The Space Museum building is still known as the Space Museum building. They're referring to their location as the Falls Event Center. The Evergreen Theater continues to stay as Evergreen Theater. But as far as our organization, the nonprofit that I work for, the Evergreen Aviation Space Museum, that name remains and will not change.
What about the relationship between SHOTS and Evergreen? So we've got kind of a trifecta here. We've got the museum, we've got two landlords that are sharing a campus. What's the relationship there?
It's not traditional, so it's always kind of been that way because Del Smith, when he set it up, there was always he started with one organization and the campus was growing and said, oh, actually, as I continue expanding, I want to have maybe it's best that I create this other foundation to take care of it, and without switching the assets over. That's kind of how we got. Kind of split across the campus between two landlords. As far as George Schott goes, he's a great landlord. He loves the museum. He loves letting us run this museum. He's got he's partners with the Collins Foundation out on the East Coast, and they also tour. They've got B-17s, B-24s. They do more of a touring museum. So he's very much about aviation history, and he was excited to come in and help us and secure our future and allow us to run the museum. As far as being an active landlord, he as long as we're not going against our lease, he's perfectly content. He's been very supportive in the past and continues to be supportive. So it's really no challenge.
Now, one of the things that actually a couple of things that Steve Downs said he was going to do was, number one, put an Even Stevens sandwich shop on Main Street, McMinnville. First question is he still going to do that as far as you know? And then the other question, well, let's talk about that first.
So Even Stevens, yeah, I heard the same thing, and the word on the street, without hearing it from Steve's mouth, is that's still in place and in the plan. And I believe last I heard they've actually identified a couple of potential locations on 3rd Street and are in the process of trying to get that project moving forward. So.
And then building a world-class motel here on campus as part of making the water park more of a destination, lodging, and then build around that and make that more of a resort, so to speak, or a fun resort.
Yep, that's still in the works. I believe they're going back and forth on different design ideas and concepts, and then also trying to. I believe they're actively involved with the city as far as permitting and getting that project going. I believe the last time frame that I heard is that they plan on breaking ground in 2017.
Okay, yeah, he was mentioning a very aggressive timeline when he came in and bought the place, so to speak, and said, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do it. And a lot of us thought that was pretty aggressive as far as the timeline. So breaking ground 2017.
Yes, that's what we've been told. That's what we hear when we speak with the Falls Event Center folks. But yeah, they're hoping to break ground 2017 with an opening in 2018.
So let's talk about the museum now. This gives you some breathing room. You no longer have to worry about whether you're going to be here next month. Your future, as much as anybody nowadays can be, your future is secured, or at least much more than it was in the past. So as we look at the museum component, what are your plans going forward? Now, we're looking at a new plane that was the A-10 Warthog. I'm looking at it right now. A-10 Warthog is, it's called a tank killer. It's a very rough, durable aircraft, and the A-10 came here about 2 months ago or so?
We brought it on property October 31st, Halloween. So it was kind of a last minute project. We had been on the list for an A-10 for quite some time, and the government said, hey, we've got one available. You need to move in this time frame, and if you can, then it's yours. So we were like, whoa, we weren't expecting this. Let's rally the troops. Our development team really hit the ground running, and fundraise to get that aircraft here. Once we secured the funding, we were able to commit and say, hey, we'll pick it up. Sent our 2 guys down there, I believe in late September. Sent them down, just 2 guys in a museum van. People were like, well, there's Evergreen Museum, McMinnville, Oregon vans driving through Southern California on its way to Arizona. What's going on? So we sent 2 of our restoration guys down there. They met up with a couple of volunteers down there, disassembled the whole thing, put it on 2 flatbeds, and then trucked it up here. Took them about, I believe, 3 weeks to get the majority of it back together, and then a little bit longer for the finishing touches. They're still doing some stuff. We've got the fan blades, the facade fan blades installed, and the goal is to continue fundraising and get it painted back to its Desert Storm era paint scheme. So this particular aircraft took pretty significant damage in Desert Storm, blew off most of the tail section on the right side, and had some field repairs done, had it back up and flying in 7 days. So they're, they're known as being tank killers, but also known for, the safety record they have. They're very durable and resilient. Essentially, the cockpit's surrounded by a titanium bathtub to protect the pilot. There's a lot of dual systems just for backup, in case one goes down. Really remarkable aircraft. And this one that we received has a lot of history along with it, so we're excited.
So it did have some combat damage.
Yes. Very significant combat damage. And if you go up to it and on the rear section, you can actually see, because it's not a supersonic aircraft, again, this is coming from the lifeguard guy.
Sure.
Because it's not a supersonic aircraft, they don't have to, file off the rivets and make it really smooth and flat. So you'll actually see the patching work that they just riveted on in place. Looks a little bit sloppy, but it gives it character.
And yeah, they're not a very pretty airplane, but when you talk to the pilots, it's durable.
Yeah, super durable. Everyone's got so much pilots, and I'm also an Army reservist. A lot of guys that I talk to in my unit love this. A lot of the combat vets love this aircraft because they've been in sticky situations where these guys come in and they just tear it up. Bailed out so many ground troops and done such an amazing job that everyone has so much respect for that thing.
It's kind of like their angel coming in to clear the way.
Exactly.
So A-10 Warthog. So that's a new exhibit here, a new piece of the museum, a new artifact that you have. So as we, again, back to breathing room, museum, you're able to stay. Now you can look at expanding the museum, adding new planes. How much did that plane cost, by the way? Ballpark.
So what we paid the government, $5,000. Pretty good deal. Most of the cost that we incurred was transportation, of sending our guys down there, room and board, rental equipment, and then shipping it back.
So museum, growth museum. What are we going to do here to Evergreen now that you're going to stay, adding exhibits? What are your plans for the future for this facility?
So our main focus this year is to work through the transition of, it's very much a different museum. When I got here back in 2011, the museum was essentially run by Del Smith as the chairman of the board, and whatever Mr. Smith wanted, we did. And he also was our main benefactor, and so we didn't really have a strong development team. Now the goal is to operate as an actual standalone entity, focus on what the museum does well and what we need to do. For a while we had a chapel, we had a water park, we had all these different programs, and we were kind of stretched thin. Now that we are essentially we've shrunken down to just an aviation and space museum, it's allowed us the opportunity to focus on our core mission of getting sound programs on site for the kids, getting quality aircraft, telling a story with the aircraft and artifacts. We got a new curator who's really hit the ground running, is looking at the collection saying, it's a cool aircraft, but it doesn't tell a story. It doesn't fit with what we're trying to do here at the museum. So let's shuffle some stuff around, get some new artifacts in here to kind of reinvigorate the customer, get them coming back. Going back and saying the same aircrafts over and over and over doesn't make anyone happy. They want to see new stuff. They want to see what we're doing. Bringing in traveling exhibits, getting more current aircraft. A lot of the World War II stuff. That's cool for the vets that were in that era and Vietnam vets. But for example, the Warthog, this reaches to a whole new level or new generation of veterans that say, hey, that's cool. I can relate to that. So we're trying to stay with the times, really focusing on aircraft, education, and just bringing people back to the campus. So it's a great time to be at the museum, to really, it's almost like a startup business in the sense that, we were a completely different museum a year ago, 6 months ago. Now we're just an Air and Space Museum. We're not an Air and Space Museum and Water Park and Chapel, an affiliate of Evergreen International Airlines. We are just a museum, and that's what we do well, and we're going to keep doing it well. We're going to get better.
There must have been days when the staff here was thinking, what's going to happen tomorrow? Are we going to open a hot dog stand or what?
Yeah, there was a lot of fun times like that. I remember getting called over by Mr. Smith, and he said, hey, we're thinking about turning this other 747 into a youth hostel, and had plans drawn up and big ideas, and I was like, whoa, that's really cool. It's unique, and that's the way he was, and I think it's great because that's why I'm here. That's why all these volunteers are here, because of his initial vision of, hey, let's make this a great place to come see aircrafts and learn about something. But there was ideas out there that were like, okay, that's kind of not really related to the museum, but we'll take a look at it. But now it's let's focus on our core mission: inspire, educate, honoring our veterans, and preserving this place.
Now, the big 747 that's out on the front yard here, what is going to happen with that? It's probably not going to be a youth hostel, but what's the plan?
So that's a great question. The museum doesn't own that aircraft. I believe it is still owned by Jet Midwest, who acquired the assets from Evergreen International Aviation from their 2013 bankruptcy. I don't believe it has much scrap value, and the value that it does have would be pretty much wiped out by the cost of getting it somewhere to scrap it. So I think it's just a really great ornament, lawn ornament right now. It's definitely a great billboard for people driving down the highway, but I don't think it's going anywhere, and we're happy to see it stay.
When it's pitch black outside and you drive by Evergreen, there's this huge mass, and you can kind of see it even in the dark. It's huge.
Yeah, it's definitely noticeable. Fortunately, it's offset from the highway, doesn't distract people too much, but if they're going to be distracted by anything, it's probably the 747 on the water park.
So you've got two 747s, one on the building, one on the front yard, with great billboards for the museum. So excited about the future.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff coming down. The Falls Event Center, there are, as I mentioned, they renovated part of the Space Museum for their dedicated event center. They will be doing a grand opening on March 30th. I'm sorry, actually March 29th, got moved up a day. Well, they'll have a great community showing, have different vendors out there, free of charge to come in, check out their space, see what kind of stuff they offer. We'll also have the museum open a little bit later for that, so that'll be a good time. Summertime, going to be a fun time. We're looking at doing another 4th of July celebration on campus. And not too long after 4th of July is the solar eclipse. So August 21st, which is a Monday, is the will be a total solar eclipse for our area. The museum is in the path of totality, so we will be completely blocked out for, I believe, just under a few minutes. We'll open up the campus at 8 a.m., have people out here doing different presentations, different educational activities. We'll close down the theater for movies, daily movies, but we'll be live streaming NASA TV because they'll have their own line of programming. We'll have some speakers out from Oregon State and the Space Grant Consortium out talking about solar eclipses, astronomy, all that fun stuff. Have a lot of those little solar viewing glasses, so it should be a good time. We're pretty excited about it. There's talk is around town that pretty much every hotel room's booked up already. So if you haven't booked up a hotel room, you're going to be driving a little bit. But it'll be a really good time. Lots of educational activities and potentially a once-in-a-lifetime event to witness.
KLYC McMinnville Newburgh, we need to do that legally, so we do that right now. So 4th of July, that's developing into an annual event. Is that going to continue to be here as an annual event?
We would love to have that as long as we possibly could. The McMinnville Chamber of Commerce has been a great partner in helping us get that event going, and we're glad to keep hosting that in the future.
What about reaching out to the community and really fostering and engaging the community in a partnership atmosphere? Is there movement going on to strengthen that kind of a role and that kind of a reach out?
We are always thinking of creative ways to be a better community partner. It's anyone that's been around town has probably heard some negative things about Evergreen, the corporate side, some positive things. So there's been a lot of mixed feelings, and we acknowledge that, and we've had to live with that and deal with it. Times have changed. We realize that we need this community to survive. It's the community that provides the employees, the volunteers, the patrons, the vendors. We can't survive without them. So we're always thinking creatively about which way we can partner with the community. For example, the 4th of July event. It's a huge community event that we put on. We say, hey, here's our parking lot, no charge. Come out, have a good time, shoot off some fireworks. Don't catch anything on fire, but have a good time. So we're always thinking creatively about how we can continue to build on the relationships that we have, and we're always open to suggestions. So anyone that's out there looking to partner with the museum, come talk to us.
How can the community help the museum?
Continue to support us. Tell your friends, tell your family. Marketing is always a tough thing, especially outside of Portland. If you know people and you hear someone talking about Evergreen, tell them, you pass along our story. Hey, the museum's, you wouldn't believe the things that they've weathered. They got a new A10. They're having a huge solar eclipse day. You should come check it out. Just spread our story. Also, we are always in need of volunteers. A lot of our volunteers are well beyond retirement, and they're about to retire a second time from volunteering. We're losing volunteers every month. Right now we have about 240. At one point we had close to 400. So if you know someone that's looking to help out the museum, volunteer, reach out to us. We've got information on our website, a short little online application that you can print out and drop off. And we've got areas from just giving tours to helping out in restorations to helping out in collections. Always looking for volunteers. Keep an eye out on our website. We're currently hiring for part-time admission cashiers. So we're always looking for extra help. It's as a nonprofit, any nonprofit will tell you that resources are tough to come by. So that's where the community comes into play. The people that give their time, give their money, and help us out. So that's how the community can really help us out and continue spreading the good word.
So even though you're not a World War II fighter ace, and because a lot of people might think, well, because they hear some of the amazing stories from the docents, and they say, boy, I couldn't do that, or I don't have that kind of experience to be able to tell that kind of story. They can still help out at the museum. Yeah,
definitely. We've got some volunteers that have no background in aviation, no military service. They were an accountant for a small, mom and pop shop, or they own their own business. We have a lot of the great ideas that the museum turns into something great come from our volunteers saying, hey, I did this once when I had a business and we tried this and it worked out well. That's a really great idea. So you'd be surprised at how many ways you can contribute, even if you don't see the connection between your volunteer service and maybe what our mission at the museum is, or the type of aircraft or exhibits or artifacts that we have. So there's always a number of ways to help out, and it's not just being a decorated war hero or being a pilot or being the son of a pilot or anything like that. There's numerous ways to help out.
Who owns the goose?
The Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum owns the goose. We got the title at our first annual gala. Was presented from the Aero Club of Southern California. We don't own any buildings or property, but we own the goose. We own a lot of the aircraft in here. But yeah, it's our favorite toy.
Well, I'm glad you own the goose. We were talking to, I'm not going to mention any names, but some of the people who are looking at this facility, the building, they were going to take this and chop it up and throw it outside.
That's not going to happen. They're going to have, I don't even know how it would take a lot of chopping to get this out of here. But yeah, the spruce goose isn't going anywhere.
Well, folks, I just did that as shock value to see if you're still listening. Actually, you were. Melissa was listening. But yeah, and I kind of warned the person that, hey, this is an historic. This is like, and it's not quite the Statue of Liberty, but this has some historic significance. This is the biggest seaplane ever built, and it's got a story, and you don't just take a chainsaw to it.
Yeah, you don't do something like that. It is the largest aircraft by wingspan, the largest flying boat ever built. It did so many things. It was the first to really use hydraulics, have redundant systems for safety. Howard Hughes did a lot of really groundbreaking engineering stuff on this aircraft. Again, lifeguard guy. We have Spruce Goose Bruce, who could probably tell you tons more than I can, but it's really remarkable. It's one of a kind, and it's not going anywhere.
This airplane has 5 backup systems for the major components, where a normal airplane has 3.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is.
Spruce Goose Bruce, you want to come on over here? Okay, and your name again?
Brandon Robin.
Brandon Robin. Remember that name. He is the executive director here at Evergreen, and boy, we're so excited about the future. And also, by the way, I do want to say that we love veterans. We love military veterans. We have an outreach called the Eagle, and we honor veterans. We encourage them. We just love what they've done for the country. And one of the reasons we wanted this museum to stick around was it's a huge venue and platform to tell the story of the veteran.
It is. And like I said, a lot of the staff are veterans. A lot of the volunteers are veterans. The Smith family, veterans. We recognize that a lot of the great accomplishments are because of veterans, of the things that they get out of the military, and we want to honor that and show it off and showcase it and say all this great stuff. It's because someone sacrificed, someone went out of their way. They weren't, many times not forced to do anything. They chose to do it. They wanted to be a contributor to the community and help out their country. So we are extremely grateful for that, and that's why we're here to airplanes, veterans, education. That's what it comes down to.
All righty, good talking to you today.
Thanks,
we want to get Spruce Goose Bruce over here for a few minutes. We're going to have a longer show. Come on over here, Bruce. And we're going to do one of the shows that we're going to have out here. We're going to be inside the cockpit of the Spruce Goose. And this is an amazing airplane.
Yes, it is very amazing. And it's the history behind it. And also when you're looking at Howard Hughes and what he contributed to the world of flying, and some of the design features had never been used before that he introduced with this aircraft. It has been a step forward in the history of aviation, and that's why it's still in one piece. People did not want to cut this airplane up because it is part of aviation history, and I'm glad they didn't, because we're proud of it, and I'm so proud to have been here approximately 14 years now talking about the Spruce Goose and Howard Hughes.
What is the one most, if you had to pick the number one amazing fact about the Spruce Goose, what would it be?
I think the most amazing thing for me is that he was ahead of the times. So many people said this large of an airplane won't fly. We don't say that anymore about anything. This plane did fly, and he was so far ahead in his thinking because he was a genius. So I was impressed with that. Now, the fact is that the Boeing 747 came out May 12th, 1947, before this thing flew. That doesn't degrade from this airplane because I call this the grandfather to the 747s. The cockpit location is the same. The wingspan of the smallest 747, the Dash 100, is about 125 feet shorter than this one. But this is still the grandfather to the giant commercial airlines.
Alrighty. Well, we need to get back to music here and play some commercials, but we are going to be doing a show inside the cockpit of this Spruce Goose. We can do that, right?
Of course.
Okay, good. So we're going to be doing that, and hopefully we'll have you on the show. We'll go in the cockpit. We'll sit where Howard Hughes was, and we'll tell people the story looking inside from out.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Thanks for what all you docents do here.
It's my pleasure and honor, truly.
AM 1260 KLYC. We got a busy day today on the road. If it's on the street, it's on the air. We're going to be at Dayton High School tonight. They are going to be having a ribbon cutting of their own in the I3 complex. It's Innovate Dayton, which is an opportunity to use innovation in a collaborative learning environment so that young and old alike are learning computers and technology and so on and so forth. They're pretty stoked about this in Dayton. And they're going to be cutting the ribbon tonight at 6. We'll have a live video stream from there. We won't have the radio station will continue to play music, but we will have some reports on KLYC broadcast. But we will have the live video stream. You'll be able to start seeing the live video stream on a new company we've started called the Oregon Pulse Network. And there's some, one of the reasons we started that is because of music royalties. We've started a number of internet radio stations. We had to create a separate licensing entity other than KLYC because that's just how things work in the music royalty business. So it's totally legit, but we had to create a different company. It's a sister, these internet stations that we're doing, like the Eagle for veterans, are a sister station for KLYC broadcast. And we're going to be using the internet quite a bit. And sometimes we're going to be taking KLYC AM 1260, and we'll talk about the Spruce Goose for an hour or something like that. If there's something going on in the community or on the street that we need to talk about, we'll stop the music for a little bit and we'll talk about it. That's what we want to do in being your local radio station. AM 1260 KLYC, and we're going to get back to Redbone here and come and get your love. It's the cruise, 42 degrees, 426. Thanks for being with us live from the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum. Thank you for all you guys do. Spruce Goose Bruce. How long have you been Spruce Goose Bruce?
About 8 years now.
I like the hat. See the hat? All right. Let's get back to music here on the cruise.